Hello, and welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. None of us agreed who was going to do the intro there, so it was a surprise for us as well. Uh, Thank you so much for the continued support. Me and Benji are back. Great news. You don't have to suffer through Zach on a solo pod again. But it was a really good podcast. And if you missed it, check it out. So today we're going to be talking about the Pakistan versus England Test match, a series win for England overseas, unbelievable, and particularly the last kind of 3 days of the Test match. But we'll flick in and out. We'll cover the whole thing because it was really good, and yeah, somehow England managed to scrape a win with a bit of controversy in there as well. So, kicking off, I want to talk about the two sort of star batters from an England perspective, who were Ben Duckett and Harry Brook, both very new to the side. I mean, Duckett with a comeback. And yeah, it's been an incredible series for those two so far. Zach, kick us off. What do you think of Duckett?
Well, he's cemented himself really as a good opening option for us at the moment, especially given the issues we've been having at the top of the order in the last, I don't know how long. So having him at the top of the order playing well is very good for us. And also, I think having Brook in the middle order, it's not going to be easy to see how we fit Johnny Bairstow back into this side, because he's come off the back of having 2 centuries in the previous match. And then, well, did he get 2 centuries, or was a century and a good score in the last match? And then he scored a century in this match in good time as well. And yeah, I can't see England getting rid of him anytime soon. And it's quite nice because for a while we've just, I think I said it in the last podcast, we've just relied on Joe Root and Ben Stokes to score all our runs. So to have other players in there who are young, exciting talents who can play at this top level is really good for us. I would say though that they have been fortunate in terms of playing on either a flat pitch at Rawalpindi, and also in this pitch was conducive to spin, and they're both good players of spin as well. So
that's it. I think I was surprised with like Duckett as well. No, not surprised that he was opening in the Test side, because it was only the real logical place that he could fit in. But it'll be interesting to see how Duckett fares back on English pitches at the top of the order, because he normally bats 3 or 4 for Notts. You've generally got Slater and Hamid who do that opening stint. And, you know, he can bat fantastically on English pitches. I think he got something like 4 or 5 centuries this year in the Carriers Championship. So he's no mug when it comes to bowling to batting in English conditions. But it'll be interesting to see, especially as we get into the English summer, how he fares in that opener's role, especially when he's facing an Australian pace attack. Because the next Test match that England have in England, there's the warm-up against Ireland, but then it's straight into the Ashes over the summer. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they pick up. Now, England weren't the only sort of story in this Test match. I think the one person that I think really shone was Abrar Ahmed. Like, that boy had the debut of dreams. 11 wickets in the match, played what looked like it could have been a match-winning cameo as well this morning. How did you think he fared today?
I was very impressed once again. I think today, you know, with his leg spin, he gets quite a lot of turn from what is a slightly unorthodox leg spin action. From what I could tell, it almost looked like, and this is from a very, very amateur, well, just a terrible bowler in general, but it looked like he was flicking it out of his hand, almost like a carom ball, but that was how he was getting his googly. And I think that made it slightly harder to pick, because it meant that he didn't really have the round arm action where you can pick it out of the hand as much. It was a lot straighter. And yeah, so I was very impressed with him as a bowler. I thought he was just that slight point of difference, and he was unfamiliar. And as a batter, he is interesting because he doesn't look like a good batter at all. He looks like somebody that you can probably jam a bat down vertically and block a few deliveries. He does not look like a man that can score you many runs, and he certainly didn't look like a man that could get 17 off 12. So I think he'll be chuffed to bits with that. Obviously, gutted that he didn't get the team over the line. But yeah, like I don't know what you thought, Zach.
I thought that his innings was almost Pakistan doing a Bazball style approach, which was Abrar Ahmed is a number 11 out and out, I would say, based on his technique. But if Pakistan were thinking going into lunch, we need runs quickly if we're going to get close to England with only a few wickets left. So we'll send in Abrar Ahmed to literally just tee off, see how much he can get, and then we've got more technically better batsmen to follow who can kind of then see us home, if you like. Sadly, it didn't work for them, but I did think that was a positive intent from Pakistan to just have a go. I thought it was quite clever. And I feel like Abrar Ahmed was almost cheated of getting that man of the match. I know you don't normally see it from the losing side, but to get 11 wickets on debut and play that selfless innings in the second innings, I thought that was he deserved it, even though it went to Harry Brook in the end. But talking of other possible man of the match mentions, at one stage I thought it was going to be Saud Shakil who was going to take Pakistan home. And there's a few things about his innings. The thing at the end is the fun bit. But yeah, what do we think about him? Because he's impressed, I would say.
He has definitely impressed. Couple of test matches, and he's already got 270 runs. That a batsman's currency is his runs, and by that metric, Saud Shakil is a wealthy man. He provided some stability in an otherwise shaky-looking lineup for Pakistan. They've got such talented batsmen. I cannot emphasize it enough. They've got such a good batting lineup, and yet they also have the ability to collapse. Reminds us of a team that we support. But Saud Shakil was somebody that he really just what's the word? Gumption. He's just got grit. He's got a bit of that Dean Elgar about him, where he's not getting out, but he's also got a bit of flair. So I think it's the complete package. I'm really impressed with him, and I think he slots in very nicely in that number 5. I think that's where they'll find him best, because I'm not a fan of Babar Azam at 3, so I think Babar at 4, Shakil 5. And yeah, I think that's what looks best.
Yeah, I think Pakistan.
What do you think?
Well, I think Pakistan are struggling a bit because they have that injury issue. That they've got no Azhar Ali, and in this Test match, in the second innings, Rizwan had to open because Imam was off getting a scan on his hamstring. So I think they are missing a bit of their top order. I think, as you say, Barber should definitely be in that number before role. And it's great because one of the things that we consistently talk about when it comes to Pakistan is their issue in their middle order batting. And as you've said, he's providing that stability. It's a bit of that over my dead body type of batting where you're just going to really show that grit. It reminds me a little bit of Jonathan Trott in the sense that he's just like going to just dig in and not have any messing. I mean, he got out to a loose delivery in the first innings that he had. That could have been a bit of nerves. But yeah, since then, he's really impressed. And, to not get a century today, I think he was unlucky. We'll discuss whether it was a catch or not later on.
Let's discuss it now.
Let's do it now.
Now's the time.
Now's
We've got
a
to
great
rip that
time.
Band-Aid off.
There you go. So there was some controversy with Saud Shakil's delivery. Edged it off Mark Wood. Ollie Pope took a catch diving to his left. Now, there was a question as to whether his gloves were under the ball. Was it a fair catch? Reviewed by umpire Joel Wilson and decided it was going to be out. What's our opinions on that decision, Zach?
What I was looking for was the fingers that Ollie Pope. So as soon as the ball hit the gloves, the fingers that he caught the ball with, were they the same fingers when he brought the ball up for the catch? Because and that was the case, I think, because if the ball hit his fingers and then it bounced off the floor, then it's so easy for the ball to then either go further into the gloves based on that momentum or go into a different part of the hand. But he kind of hooked it under with his middle finger and index finger, and then he came up with the ball in his middle finger and index finger. So I think he grabbed it and then it stayed in his hand like that the whole way, and he just managed to get those fingers underneath it. It was so hard to see though. But yeah, what normally happens is you see the ball hit the ground and then come up into the gloves, and that's a risky one. So I think it was a catch based on that.
That's a big call.
There you go.
And I do agree. It was a tight one. I personally, I know for a fact that if it was an England player that got out like that, I'd be absolutely livid, because I really do think that it was grounded slightly. I think it was really close, and it was a really unlucky thing for either person. Like if it had not been given, it would have been gutting for England, Wood and Pope. And if it had been, and because it was given, it was so rubbish for South Shakil, because he earned that century. He earned the win for Pakistan, really. So yeah, I personally didn't think it was out, and I would have given it not out. But it does raise an interesting question about the whole third umpire, soft signal, all that stuff, because that's what happens when you get these close calls. It raises these arguments.
I mean, this is the thing though. Like, as an umpire, in Murray Erasmus's shoes, I mean, that man's a legend of umpiring. He's great with his smiley round face. A legend of the game when it comes to umpiring, and umpires can only give what they can see. So he saw the edge. So there was a clear edge there. Mark Wood did actually. It's been overshadowed a bit how good of a delivery it was from Mark Wood that generated that edge. So Wood deserved that wicket because he had been toiling away at that point. And then the umpire can only give what they can see. So the soft signal was out, and then there was not clear evidence to overturn that decision. It could go either way. I think really on Quick Info it says there was an angle that confirmed a finger was under. We'll see. It's one of those things where cricket is that game of inches, isn't it? But just speaking a bit more about England's bowling, Mark Wood today really impressed with his fourth. He was bowling quick. I think his average pace was like 142 Ks, and you can just see the what he adds back to that team. Like Abdullah Shafiq's wicket yesterday, when he just bowled 141 kilometers per hour, but just went through and cleaned him up completely. What a delivery that was, and I think that was fantastic. And then today he managed to splat Zahid Mahmood out as well. But yeah, I mean Wood and also Jack Leach impressed too. So James, what's your view on Leach's performance in this match?
Yeah, I'm always impressed with how Leach does, because I never expect him to do well. He's the most unassuming bloke you've ever seen. You do not think that he's gonna take wickets, really, but because Stokes has so much faith in him, and he almost aggressively pushes him to just be better. He sets really challenging fields for Leach, and it makes Leach do better. I think he copes under the extra pressure that Stokes gives as a captain, and he produced the results. He is actually very skilled, and I think he is getting more skilled as time goes on. He's becoming more confident, and it's no mean feat to take over 100 Test wickets now, which is what he's got, and it's thoroughly deserved. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I'm happy with Leach's performance. He's got that experience now. He's been given a lot of confidence through Stokes and McCullum, which is what he needed. So yeah, I was happy with that. But I think for England, the reason they won is because of how good their pace bowling was, mostly in that second innings. Those first 3 wickets, it was almost like they were competing with each other, because they're proper Test match wickets in that they were all bowled. And Anderson's wicket, one of the best wickets I've seen from him. So yeah, that was awesome. And then Robinson, Babar Azam, shoulders, arms, clips the top of off stump, beautiful. And then Wood's like, well, I'm just going to get one as well, and just knocks the off peg out the ground. And it was brilliant to watch that bowling.
And got to say, Wood really suits Bazball batting, because he's the most fidgety bloke you've ever seen. If you were asking him to block out for a draw, it would be the most horrible watching experience. Yeah. But if you're asking him to just swing the bat, he connects really well.
Yeah.
And his little cameo of it was in the first innings, wasn't it? Of 36 off 27 was priceless. I mean, that was the difference, wasn't it? When you think about it. And you wouldn't have been surprised if he went out for a duck. So they're 36 bonus runs as well.
Yeah. Going back to the bowling, though, I think England's fast bowling, especially in the second innings, kind of, with the experience they have, it shows how much Pakistan are missing. We've said it lots, but how much they're missing their experienced bowlers. Because when you look at Pakistan's batting, you've got Shafiq and Imam, who are looking really good. You've got Babar Azam, you've got Rizwan, Shahid Shakil now as well. Mohammad Nawaz is handy with the bat as well in the middle order. So they've got very strong batting. They're just, if they had that stronger bowling, if they had that more experienced bowling, I think it could probably be 1-1 in this series based on that, or maybe 2-0 Pakistan, because their bowling is very strong when they're full strength. So I think overall, although England have deserved this victory, we need to remember that Pakistan still have a good team if they're full strength. So yeah,
I think just one last thing about this, about England's bowling. Just a little quick nod to Ollie Robinson for having Babar Azam completely in his pocket, because he got him in both innings this Test match. Twice he's been bowled. The first one was a bit of a loose shot, but the second one was just a fantastic. That was an absolute peach. That second delivery that he did, when it just seamed all the way in, it was fantastic. As a seam bowler, that is the exact thing that you like to see. I mean, those 3 first wickets, as a seam bowler, were perfect. Like that movement away a little bit from Anderson, that reverse swing in from Robinson, and that just raw pace of Mark Wood. Yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that Stokes didn't even bowl at all is testament to how well everybody else bowled, with the exception potentially of Will Jacks, who I think Stokes he held him back. He kind of made it so he didn't need to use him, so he has the excuse then to bring folks in the next match. I think that's what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, interesting things. Let us know what your thoughts were down in the comments. We really enjoy the conversation with you guys. Don't forget to subscribe and like. You're really helping to support the channel. We're en route to get 1,000 subscribers. So let's really work hard at that. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later. Goodbye.